Thank you, Sean. Yes, is that me back? Yes, thank you, Sean. Yes? Yes, he's given me the thumbs up, so I'm now able to speak to you again, to communicate with you, to wish you namaste and a very happy experience in your journey through life on this great Thursday it is. Market day in Newry on a Thursday. And those of you who are in Manhattan or Boston or wherever else from Newry, you'll remember Market Day, the selling of the oranges and the apples and all the rest of it. Still happens and it's there. And if you want to be involved in diving, if you're in this part of the world, and you've seen some of the images there today and yesterday, you simply contact the Newry and Mourne Sub-Aqua Club, and they're there to welcome you. They want members at the moment. I'm Rowan Hand. This is Father Donall Cahan of the Society of African Missions, a man of Africa. You're welcome home, sir.
Thank you very much, Ron.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. This is the man, guys, who has been working with the people in northern Nigeria for the last, 25 years?
22, 23
22,
years. Yeah.
23 years. I knew him when he was a boy. He was just this size here, you see, and we tripped across each other. And he was building schools out there for his people. And he wasn't. I think people should be careful the way they speak about that. You weren't building schools you were building schools with them. You were all there together. Mm. And it was happening as a consequence of people's own desire for education.
Yeah, well, in the beginning they didn't have much of a desire for education, but gradually people began to understand the need for it, and then they started to want it, and we started gradually with informal education, literacy and that kind of thing, which is still going on. But then around 2003, some people started asking for more formal education. They wanted something more than just a basic literacy. Yeah. So we had some meetings, and then we got the OLA sisters involved in.
That's Our Lady of the Apostles.
Yeah, they're the ones.
Those are the girls, the ladies at Rostrevor in Ireland.
That's right, yeah.
And they have an African offshoot as well.
Yeah, there's only very few Irish left now out in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. They're mostly indigenized. So they agreed to manage the school. Mm-hmm. So then we started in September 2004.
Yeah. Why, looking back, why do you think it changed? Why did the people you work with suddenly decide we need education? What was happening in their community that made them feel if we don't have education we're going to be disadvantaged?
The world was changing around them, and if they didn't change themselves, they would have been left behind. And also they were being more and more exploited by other people who had a bit of an education and were using it against them. Let's put it like that, to cheat them and to get money out of them.
Yeah.
So they felt that they needed to have somebody in the family who could read and write and could stand up for them and help them if they were in trouble.
Yeah. Tell our audience all around the world, they are at the moment. Bishop Bullis could probably get us in northern Nigeria if he was plugged in.
Right.
He's a local man. In Africa, he's part of the indigenous clergy there. But tell the people of the kind of folk you're working with, the kind of African people they are. What do they do to live? How do they live? What kind of homes do they live in? How do they survive?
90% of the people still are living in as they were traditionally, that is in little mud rooms. A compound could be made up of about 10 of these rooms, and you'd have the father or the grandfather, whoever's the oldest person in the house, and then his children and their wives and dependents and whatever. Mm-hmm. And so you could have up to anything from half a dozen up to 60 people in one house with all their own little sections of it, and granaries, grass roof. Some rooms have doors, some don't.
Mm-hmm.
And they're farming. Yeah, they're that's where everything comes from. They farm.
Yeah. The staple crop would be what? Millet and guinea corn?
Guinea corn, yeah.
That kind of thing.
And they grow groundnuts, which is peanuts we call them, and beans and different other things like that.
Are they happy people?
Very happy people, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very happy. contented in their lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your call to Africa, it was a very specific call to be at the very edge of evangelization as a priest. You wouldn't have been content in being a priest in Uri. You needed to go to Africa to do this.
Well,
Even Lagos was no good to you. You wouldn't have settled there.
No,
the city.
Yeah, well, the Lagos and these places are already too developed for me anyway, and there's already an indigenous clergy there who are well able to look after the church, which is quite established at this stage. So there are still areas in Nigeria, being a very big country, that are undeveloped, and it was into that area that I moved into.
And what drew you to it? Why could you not hack? You needed to go there, and yet again you finished 2 schools, and you're now going further north and west, and that's happening. Once again you're on the edge. You're a man who lives on the edge.
That's our what we call it, our charism. The SMA, that's the group that are in Drummondton here near Newry. That's our charism, is to go and establish the church in places where it hasn't been established, to preach the gospel, spread the message of Christ wherever it hasn't been heard before. So this area was one of those areas where there was nothing.
And they're coming to Christianity from your first contact with the people who have no knowledge of Christianity. From that first moment of you saying, "Hello, I'm Donall, nice to see you." From that moment to a community having a little church, a little seedling bed of faith, how long does that take?
It depends, but I would say it can take up to 20 to 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be faster, but I mean, generally speaking, older people are not going to convert to Christianity. They may want some. The reason people come to the church, we're not going around with Bibles waving them at them or this kind of thing, repenting, or else you're damned. That we're not into that. But you have to move through something that people are interested in, through healthcare, which is what the nuns would have used, or through education, informal or formal, helping people with the problems of their lives, whatever it is. They need water, they need this, they need that, and through that then people start asking questions about, why is this person doing what they're doing, why are you here? And like in the beginning, when I went into areas where they wouldn't have seen white people before, you would have obviously children would have been afraid, even young adults would have been afraid
of this white person.
Yeah, and but gradually you have to learn. They have to learn to trust you. Yeah. And they have to decide that this is what they want, and then they come to you and say, we want to repent, is what they call it. Yeah. And then they generally take on a Christian name or whatever. But there's the first group of people who repent generally don't ever develop a full understanding of their faith or don't become sacramentarians. It's only their children. So it's the opposite to Ireland. The church is full of young people. There's no, or very few, almost no older people in the churches.
And are they seeing it? Is it a genuine? Well, it's maybe not. From what you're saying, it's maybe not a genuine conversion to Christianity, or is it seen as a meal ticket?
Well, I would say it's a genuine conversion to Christianity. At the end of or partially along the road. Anyway, in the beginning, the reason why somebody comes into Christianity is not the reason why they're going to stay. I mean, somebody might come to me and say, my wife can't get pregnant, but if she gets pregnant, we'll become Christian.
Wow.
But they never will become Christian. I mean, even though if the wife becomes pregnant and she has a child and they're happy, but that fellow will never really, he himself will never really, but if once his children start off from an early age, learning about Jesus, learning about reading the Bible, reading various religious books, learn their prayers and that kind of thing, they build up a faith, and it becomes a culture. I mean, everything it happens in the church. So the learning how to read happens in the church. The disco happens in the church. They all have the musical instruments. Some of the more developed churches, they have drums and keyboards and everything, guitars, everything. So the kids are socializing and interacting and whatever within the confines of a kind of a culture which is Christian.
They're talking about their fear of you at the beginning, 25 years ago maybe, when you arrived at your house and you were looking out from behind the window of the house, and the lads were all down at the crossroads almost. And then the rains came and they had to race up to the veranda, the very modest veranda of your very modest home. And there was an interesting standoff there between the two of you and them.
Yeah, well, it's just purely by accident. The first night I arrived in the place, in the Shafashi, which I've been there for 12 years now. It was at the end of September, and there was a market on, and it was a night market which was going on until the following morning. And it was all young people from the Canberras that were there, and rain came, so they all came onto the house, and the house wasn't completed, so most of the furniture was piled up in one room, which I was inside. There was only one door you could get in or out of, so they were all standing outside looking in, because I had the only light in the place, looking in the window and thought, so if you ever wonder what a monkey in the zoo feels like, well, that's
you were there.
Yeah,
you were the monkey there.
It.
Yeah, I think we should make it absolutely clear that in the fellow who came to you looking for his wife to be pregnant, he wasn't inviting your services.
No,
he was inviting your prayers.
My prayers, and we'd take them to the sisters and whatever, and they'd get.
There could be medical reasons.
Or no, they'd just give them help, and maybe there could be some infection or whatever, and they'd
and
clean
it's
it.
done.
Yeah.
The sisters are wonderful there, and now they're all African sisters.
Yes,
they come to the clinic every Saturday, and they administer the medicines. But you become the nurse for the remainder of the week when they go away. Are you still handing out the medicines to the folk? And
well, yeah, in the dry season course, obviously, if you have all those children or young people, there's over 600 of them.
Tell the people about the dry season course. What exactly is that?
Well, this was the thing that was started maybe around in the early 80s, I would think, or late 70s, of helping people to learn how to read and write. And in the beginning, it was very slow. When I came there first in Aguara, there was only maybe a dozen people attending the dry season course. But a kind of a breakthrough came. The man who preceded me had written down the language for the first time, and made out some kind of literacy books on it. So
it wasn't Kevin Carroll, was it?
Not Kevin Carroll. It was Tim Carroll.
Tim Carroll. He was the great man of the art there and the language.
No, Kevin Carroll was the art.
Kevin was the man,
had a similar name, but
again SMA people.
Yeah, both of them SMA.
Yeah.
So he did some basic literacy books, and then I came along, and it was just people weren't responding in any large numbers, and then we just gradually got them to respond. The numbers grew until by the time I was leaving Galway, I had over 300 attending that was in 2001, attending the dry season course. So I'd say it was around 97 maybe that the first girl ever was allowed to attend, because they didn't agree. If they didn't agree for male education, they didn't agree for female 10 times more. So that was the first girl, and we just to come in, and they're there for 3 months. They're in little groups from whatever village they came from, 3 or 4, half a dozen of them from one particular place. They cook their own food. They attend class all morning, and then for the afternoon and at night as well, we have some lights fixed up with a generator. So it's literacy, stroke, religious education. So at the end of the time, some of them take 4 or 5 dry seasons that they're coming, and then they receive sacraments or that, as well as getting their literacy.
They seem amazingly capable of absorbing learning, because in a very short period of time they're speaking the language of Nigeria, the language of business, English, and they've got that.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I mean, there's a willingness that is there. I remember when I was in school, kids often had to be forced, or it seemed that anyway. You were kind of there under.
Yeah, I know this thing.
But everybody is very enthusiastic here about it. It's a chance. They know that illiteracy now is like a sickness in the modern world. and if you can't read and write, you can't go anywhere, and you're just like a fool who can be exploited at any stage by anybody.
So they're switched on to it.
So they're switched on to it, and they're all very competitive with each other in as well.
You, as a priest there, you're a lone European with maybe 50, 60,000 Canberra folk. You're alone.
Yes, well, I've been alone at times. I started off staying with Tim Carroll, who went on to be the bishop then. And so then I was alone for a while after he left, and then I got an African SMA who came to join me. Then I left that place, Aguara, and left him there, and I went on to the new place, Trafashi, and I was there then at times on my own, at times with other people, until eventually we got some Indian SMAs who came to join me, and I've handed over to them now. There just before I came home, and I'm moving into a new place when I go back.
You're almost working yourself out of a job. You're going to the edge of your evangelistic universe.
Was our founder had some fairly strong things to say. And one of the things he said was never become a parish priest, or something to that effect. So never allow yourself to settle down. So that was what we always, the SMAs right from the beginning in the past was set up an indigenous church, established seminaries, all this kind of thing. So they were involved in that from the very beginning in Nigeria of getting, we would have been way ahead of other, there were parts of Nigeria which were more Christianized in the east, and yet they didn't have clergy as quickly as under the SMAs, because of the fact that people who were doing it, other groups weren't as, that wasn't part of their
so
thinking.
more and more the church in Africa is an African church.
Yeah, the man there now, Tim Carroll, he was the last Irish European or whatever bishop. So now the hierarchy is completely indigenized, and 90% of the church in Nigeria is no longer missionary, in the sense that it's you could have dioceses there and with 400 priests in it or more. So it's only in the remoter, because Nigeria, it's not like Ireland, it's not homogeneous unit. There are hundreds of different languages, groups, and even in the major languages there are many. So you have different cultures, different outlooks. So it's a federation of different groups, and some groups are very developed and very educated, and others are not. So you just have to work in the
constant challenge.
Yeah.
You're in being there and in seeing the growth. Are there dangers in that growth away from the SMA, the European, into the African? Because it's a new culture of new efficiency, if you like. Can there be slippage in there, as it happened in the past?
Sorry, I'm not picking you for.
In the sense of the European is well used to the organizational disciplines, but you have your current bishop, Bullis. He's a man of the people, his own people. He's the first of the people to be educated, the first of the people to be a priest, first priest to be a bishop. Are there risks of his cultural influences pulling the church that you have founded, that you've been there for, pulling it back from good and solid development?
Well, so we're very happy with him so far. Anyway.
Oh, he's a great man.
And
but
obviously,
it's more the generality of the question.
Everybody will have their own way of doing it, and the way an Irish person will be different to an Indian, or different to an African from another country, or to a Canberra man from doing it. So within our vicariate, we call it, it hasn't reached to being called a diocese yet. It's directly under propaganda feed. So within that, there are many different language groups alone.
Many different ways of doing the work.
There are many different groups of. So he is the Bishop of Canberra. There are Dakakeris, Dukawas, Gungawas, Kamukus, half a dozen other different groups within indigenous. Not talking about the others. There are Igbos then from other parts of Nigeria, Yorubas and whatever. So you have a huge mix of people, and they all have their own way of doing things. So
your big challenge is to know when to let it go and to walk on to the new pasture.
Yeah. Well, there's the school in Papri. I was involved a lot in that, So that's, but in the actual parish itself, I was working up towards the fact that the area is too large. The parish was about the size of a province in Ireland, and no tar road, and so it's very hard to get around it. Spent a lot of time in the car, driving long distances and driving for many hours. So you need to, if you're going to talk about self-sufficiency and Indigenous clergy looking after the place, you have to prepare a geographically smaller area, which is going to be easier to get around. But to do that, you need to have already developed the place, that there is enough of a population there to look after the priests.
Right. And more and more it's their own priests, their own community.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm the youngest Irish estimate there, so there's nobody else coming along after us.
No, you're the last man standing.
Well, I don't know, we're one of them anyway.
One of them, indeed. The people of Newry have been very interested in what's going on there, and over the last 8 years they've been helpful. You might like to address just the importance of their interest and their contribution.
Well, as you know yourself, you were invited by the SMA to come and do a DVD for us, I think, on our 150th, which is about 2005, I think. It was 2006 was the actual 150th, so it was, I think you did 2005. So we met in Cork, I think, in 2006, I think, five, I think, or 6. Yeah. And it was just at the time, as I said, that the school was starting. We started the school, we didn't know where it was going to go, where we were going to get money. I'd been going to various funding agencies looking for money, but it was coming slowly, and then suddenly I was talking to a fellow called Martin O'Farrell, who was our development officer.
Yeah, Father Martin.
There's a guy in the next room here who can do the school for you. That's what he said. So so we met, and out you came. So that was how the Newry connection started.
But I had no way of knowing that any of this would happen. I had no way
None
of
of us
knowing,
did.
none whatsoever.
None of us did.
All I could do, and all I did, was through my work in Nationwide and RTE, I was able to write to people and just tell the story. I was a kind of an evangelist, a disciple, and one of the apostles for you, saying, look, this is what the guy is doing. This is, and people responded. People were very, very good.
Yeah.
Hugely, hugely kind, and that continues. So we hope it continues on beyond that.
Absolutely.
And the important thing to bear in mind is that everything that people give, there's no expenses. It goes straight to you, straight from us to Donall, and straight out there and straight into the project.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well done. I think we'll let people see now the little short St. Mary's High School Newry DVD that Maurice Fitzpatrick compiled when he was out with me 3 years ago. I don't know if you've seen this one. It's the Maurice one.
I don't know.
You'll have a look at this and see.
Actually,
Okay. Sean, let's look at this. This is St. Mary's Primary School in northern Nigeria, shot by Maurice Fitzpatrick of the St. Mary's Girls High School in Newry in County Down. And that school is now twinned with St. Mary's School in northern Nigeria. And progress is happening because of the commitment of the school in Ireland, and because of the commitment of the Irish League of Credit Unions, and who help as well, and all of the folk who are giving constantly to make sure that the school works. In a kind of way, it's God's work, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Sean, take it away.